Now, let's get straight to the heart of this complicated and deeply troubling situation involving Mahmoud Khalil. He's a 30-year-old Palestinian who, after being born in Syria, eventually gained lawful permanent residency here in the United States, a green card holder. And still, he finds himself in an ICE detention facility nearly 1,300 miles from the life he's built with his wife, who, by the way, is pregnant and due soon. The distressing part? Federal officials have not charged him with any criminal offense. Play this clip.
At Columbia University last year. New video shows the moment that he was arrested by federal agents.
What? You're going to be under arrest. So turn around.
Okay, let's not. Okay, he's not resisting. He's giving me his phone, okay? He's not, I understand. He's not resisting. Like...
This as the Justice Department ramps up efforts to deport foreigners who participated in pro-Palestinian demonstrations at Columbia last year and goes after the university itself. CNN's Gloria Pazmino is joining us now with more on this. So, Gloria, let's start first with what the Trump administration is saying about these investigations.
Well, Jessica, we've learned over the past week that at least 45 private and public universities are being targeted for investigations for a range of different issues, including the types of race-based scholarships that they have provided to students. And we also know that the Trump administration is looking into students who have been participating in these protests, not just last year, but also recently. Also today, we are hearing from Khalil's attorneys who filed a motion for his release overnight. They are asking the court to release him, arguing that his First Amendment rights, his due process rights have all been violated, and they want him released, and for the court to determine that the government's actions have been unconstitutional. We are also hearing in the past few hours from Khalil's wife in a declaration that she filed to the court in support of this motion for her husband to be released. You hear her voice there in that video. She is the one who recorded it when he was being arrested last weekend by federal immigration officers at their home. We've learned that she is 8 months pregnant. She is a citizen of the United States. And this is one of the first times that we are hearing directly from her, at least as she tries to speak to the court. She says in part, quote, "Since his arrest, I have neither been able to sleep nor eat. I can feel my baby and I hope that he is okay. But I know that this stress and all that comes with it is not good for him." We know that Khalil and his wife are due to have a boy. She's in her 8th month of pregnancy. She also talked to the court about all of the financial struggle that is sure to come as a result of Khalil being in custody. He was supposed to be taking a job in the next few months. So all of this as they make a case for him to be released. We are also hearing from his attorneys who are continuing to say that they believe all of this is happening purely because the government is trying to target Khalil for his political speech. And the way that the government is trying to do this is by relying on the INA, a section of U.S. law that talks about the powers that the Secretary of State has to determine if a person has an adverse, can have an adverse role in the foreign policy of the United States. Take a listen to his attorneys.
So it's extremely vague. It's been very rarely used, and it certainly has never been used to punish speech. That was not the intention, behind Congress when it made this law. And so again, that just brings us back to the fundamental fact that the government here is very transparently retaliating against Mr. Khalil for his exercise of his First Amendment rights.
Khalil has been caught up in policies tied to a 2025 executive order under the Trump administration, which targeted perceived supporters of Hamas. Yet, to this day, no evidence demonstrating material support or criminal wrongdoing linked to Khalil has surfaced publicly. Let me repeat that. None. What we do know is that ICE agents arrived at his Columbia-owned apartment, detained him, and invoked Section 237A-4-CI of the Immigration and Nationality Act to justify their actions. This is crucial to understand because that clause gives the government the authority to claim that an individual imposes serious foreign policy consequences for the United States. But again, where's the evidence? See, What makes this case stand out beyond just Khalil himself is how it underscores a broader application of the Immigration and Nationality Act. Historically, this clause has been controversial, to put it mildly. In cases like Khalil's, lawyers argue, and I must agree, that it skirts dangerously close to punishing constitutionally protected activities like free speech and peaceful protest. And let's not forget that Khalil's activism, his presence at protests supporting Palestinian rights here, represents a call, not for violence, but for justice. Yet, the United States government under this clause can essentially paint his words and associations as a national security risk. And here's another thing we can't ignore: the procedural opacity of it all. Khalil sitting in a Louisiana detention facility without clear charges speaks to a disproportionate use of immigration enforcement resources. ICE made the arrest without producing evidence that could connect Khalil to any criminal act, much less the accusations of supporting terrorism. Is this about Khalil, or is this about sending a political message, a chilling one at that? Because if we start deporting lawful permanent residents on something as ambiguous as invoking foreign policy consequences, how far are we really from infringing on fundamental free speech rights? So, yes, it makes one wonder, what precedent are we setting here? By detaining Khalil under such murky legal and ethical grounds, are we weaponizing immigration law for political ends? Are we undermining its intended purpose to protect? This is more than one man's legal fight. The implications ripple through any community seeking to voice dissent or opposition to power. The story of Mahmoud Khalil would be incomplete without examining the McCarran-Walter Act, a Cold War relic designed with the aim, or perhaps the pretext, of protecting national security. Its roots trace back to 1952, a time when fears of communism took precedence over civil liberties. But the troubling aspect of this legislation was not just its Cold War rationale, it was how it reinforced existing prejudices within the immigration system. For decades, it disproportionately targeted Jewish immigrants, among others, denying entry and residency under the guise of preserving American values. Ironically, this very law, created amid a climate of fear and distrust, has been resurrected in Khalil's case. What does that tell us? That we're willing to revisit a law with an inherently discriminatory legacy to act against those who dare to dissent. And in Khalil's case, his advocacy for Palestinian rights, protected under the First Amendment, has somehow been twisted into grounds for his detention and potential deportation. Let that sink in for a moment. The government's justifications echo the same arguments used decades ago: national security risks, potential foreign policy consequences. But these claims often fall apart under scrutiny. Here's what's different now. Khalil is a green card holder, a lawful permanent resident. The implications of targeting him mean that even permanent residency, a status that many view as secure, can be revoked with alarming ease if you're labeled politically inconvenient. And then there's the absolute disconnect between the law and its application. Historically, the McCarran-Walter Act was also used to exclude individuals for their political affiliations. Today, Khalil's defense team raises that same argument. This isn't about his actions because there's no evidence of wrongdoing. It's about punishing him for lawful dissent. And while the government invokes foreign policy interests, it fails to provide tangible proof of how Khalil's presence threatens those interests. So we must ask ourselves, why bring back an act with such a fraught history? And why apply it in a case where no crime has been proven? For Khalil, his legal team challenges not only these accusations, but also the erosion of free speech protections they represent. Is dissent no longer tolerated if it challenges dominant narratives about foreign conflicts? What precedent are we setting for every activist, every lawful resident who exercises their constitutional rights? This intersection of history, policy, and activism paints a bleak picture. By stretching vague legal statutes to justify his detention, we're venturing into a dangerous space where immigration law becomes a weapon, stripped of its principles of justice and fairness. And as I reflect on Khalil's ordeal, I can't help but think this isn't just about one man. It's a test of how far we're willing to go to silence opposing voices. Let's take a moment to zoom out and reflect on Mahmoud Khalil's story within the larger context of civil rights and political activism in America. His detention and the chilling message it sends is not an isolated incident. It ties directly into a broader, unsettling trend: the suppression of pro-Palestinian voices and academic dissent on university campuses. And it's not just about Khalil. What is happening to him could happen to anyone who speaks in opposition to dominant narratives. We've seen how groups like Jewish Voice for Peace have rallied in solidarity, demanding his release and affirming that the call for justice should not, cannot be treated as a threat to democracy. These protests embody the essence of what it means to live in a free society where dissent and dialogue spark change. And yet, the government's actions against Khalil reveal a disturbing shift in how dissent is being handled, as if it's something to be silenced rather than engaged with. And let's not forget the historical echoes here. When we look at Khalil's case and connect it with the suppression of movements in the past, be it during the McCarthy era or the civil rights struggles, the patterns are all too familiar. Voices challenging the status quo are painted as risks, and the machinery of the state, be it through immigration laws or other tools, is wielded in the name of some nebulous security concern. It raises an important question. Are we at risk of repeating the mistakes of our history? But there's hope, isn't there? The voices advocating for Mahmoud Khalil are passionate, diverse, and united across lines that often divide us. From students and community leaders to civil society groups, their actions remind us of the fragile power of democracy, of empathy, of standing together for justice. They've shown us that we can push back, that the story doesn't have to end this way. So, what does this mean for all of us? It means that we must remain vigilant. We must ensure our laws don't become weapons to suppress the very freedoms we claim to protect. And we must remember that voices of dissent are not adversaries. They are the lifeblood of democracy. Khalil's story challenges us all to act, not out of fear, but with the unwavering belief that justice, no matter how contested, is a fight worth taking up. That wraps up today's episode of The Real 411. I want to personally thank each and every one of you for tuning in and for your continued support. It means more than you know. If you found value in today's discussion, please drop a comment, follow us on all social media platforms, and let us know what topics you'd like to see us cover next. Be sure to sign up for our email newsletter so you never miss an update or exclusive insight. And if you believe in independent media that digs deeper and dares to tell the truth, please consider following The Real 411 on Substack and Fanbase. We offer both free and paid subscriptions, and your support helps us continue producing content that informs, empowers, and sparks real conversation. Thanks again for being part of this journey, because remember, the story is never just the headline. Until next time, stay informed, stay bold, and stay real.